So, do today in the Gaming Generations podcast, we're gonna talk about the evolution of gaming throughout the ages, right, Javier?
That's correct.
And there are, as I see it, there are two ways that the developers can revolutionize or evolve gaming. The first is by changing how you play video games, and the second is by changing what you play. For example, by changing how you play, Nintendo invests a lot in that with the Wii, with motion controls, or with touch screens. That's changing how you play, but changing what you play is when they come up with new mechanics, like in Little Big Planet and many other games. That's how I see it. What do you think about it, Javier?
A lot of games have changed recently, to be honest. Like, for example, one of the games that has changed, to evolve was the new God of War. New God of War is now a third person instead of, open world hack and slash. So, that's evolved quite a lot. And then you got Sonic the Hedgehog evolved from a side scroll to a third person type game, like back in the Dreamcast. And then you got Super Mario. That's evolved quite a lot too. Now he is inside an open world in Mario Odyssey instead of doing standard side scroll or having a group of people with them like in 3D World. So
like Super Mario 64 was a big revolution in 3D gaming. It set the standards for platforming in 3D. And I believe that there are some games that are just benchmarks in the industry, like Final Fantasy VII with cinematic storytelling in RPGs, for example. That's one big example right there. Mario 64 with...
That's why everybody likes it.
What? What?
I said that's why everybody likes it. The Final Fantasy VII. I'm not really a big fan of that, to be honest. But I'm not a big fan of turn-based RPGs.
I know. I heard you say that before. You don't like the Final Fantasy franchise a lot either, but
nah, not really.
Even when we don't like something, we can see that it has influenced the industry in one part, in one way or another. But like Final Fantasy VII was a benchmark anyway, so.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And were many benchmarks. What?
What's a really good example of evolution gaming would be. Have you ever heard of the Phantasy Star series by Sega?
I only heard its name. I never played it.
Okay, Phantasy Star. It's turn-based RPG, but it's not like Final Fantasy where the characters are from left to right. It's more of like from the characters are on the bottom and the enemies are on top. But when they came out with the Dreamcast and they announced Phantasy Star Online, they evolved that so much to where it became an RPG, but it wasn't turn-based. It became like an action RPG.
All right.
To where kind of like World of Warcraft.
Nice. It was one of the first RTS real-time strategies. Did it come out before Chrono Trigger?
Before Chrono Trigger?
Yeah.
I really don't. I'm probably assuming so because I remember it was out on the Master System.
All right, Master System. No, okay, Master System was before the Super Nintendo era. But Chrono Trigger was not benchmark, not because it was a real-time strategy, because Phantasy Star Online already did that. Chrono Trigger was a benchmark because it had deep storyline. It was like it was a crystallization of everything an RPG of the time should be, because they had the composer of music from Final Fantasy, the artist from Dragon Ball making the characters. There was the something whoever wrote the script was also famous. I don't remember who it was. So Chrono Trigger was another big one in the history of gaming. But I was thinking these days about the two ways games can evolve. Like I said, changing how we play or changing what we play. And I realized that the arcade machines have come in all shapes and sizes ever since a long time ago. Like we've got arcade shooters that are a gun, we've got arcade taiko drum arcades, which are drums, actually drums. This exists for a long time now. But even so, we still got big launches in home gaming that changed the hardware, like the Nintendo Labo with the cardboard stuff. No.
That one's different. That one's very different.
Yeah. Like it's like they're trying to bring arcades to our homes. It feels like that by giving us different hardwares in how we can play in the comfort of our lairs. Because that big array of forms of playing with hardware have existed for a long time, as those cabinets you sit on to drive cars and Guacamole and many others. But there's nothing like playing at home, so companies try to come up with new hardware, like the Kinectic, for example. That's a camera.
Oh, the Xbox Kinect.
Yeah, that's one example of they trying to change how we play video games at home. But even so, I think that they can come up with as many hardware as they want. As the classic joystick format came to stay. It's like something that's never going away, I believe.
Well, of course, definitely. I mean, control pads are here to stay no matter what.
Yeah. They could invent like a super VR experience that you can have at home while you stand up and you fight monsters, but there's nothing like sitting on your ass, holding a joystick controller and pressing buttons, you know. That's never gonna go away.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, it's not to say that VR experiences and other innovations aren't welcome. It's just that classic gaming styles is something that we'll never forget about. Yeah.
You know what's pretty funny? The Kinect, it failed, miserably at first, and then they decided to bring it to the Xbox One, and it still failed miserably because nobody wants to use it.
Yeah. So they can't force new experiences on us, because just to make a hardware for the sake of making a new hardware, if you don't have any good ideas for software for games to play with that hardware, it's useless.
Indeed.
It's like giving us
Just
a
look
car
at,
when we don't have a road
look
to
at
drive. What?
Look at the Jaguar. When they came out with the CD version of that. I mean, that was pretty horrible.
Oh yeah, the Jaguar. Never got to play that. That was Atari, no? Yeah, Atari.
Yeah, that was Atari. That was the very last console, and then they left the market and just became software only.
Oh yeah. Did you hear?
Just like what happened to Sega.
Yeah, it's like hardware market is a hard market. It does, no pun intended, but it's difficult to come up with new machines and new games at the same time. That's why we only have 3 main companies doing that as of now.
Yep.
But I read somewhere a little time ago that Atari was thinking about bringing up a new console. And I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know if that's relevant now. We have enough competition.
They're probably gonna bring a console in where it's kind of like the SNES Mini Classic and the NES Mini Classic, where you can play your Atari 2600 and 800 games on it.
But according to what I read, it was going to also play HD new games. I believe. I'm not sure. I think that was the case. But whatever, I don't think. But for that to be relevant nowadays, they're gonna have to think of a new gimmick or something, because I think it's very hard to enter the hardware market at this point in time.
Yeah, because right now the way everything's evolving, I mean, back then cartridges with the ColecoVision were very huge,
Yeah.
and then cartridges started shrinking and shrinking, and now we have cartridges like the size of a quarter, and that's for, like the Switch and the 3DS and the PS Vita and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those little tiny cartridges hold a lot now, and it's like back then, we had Genesis and Super Nintendo and so on and so forth. Everything was like less than a megabyte. Now everything's up to like 20 to 50 to 100 gigs just for a freaking game.
That's right. It's a lot in a small cartridge. Technology is incredible. I remember when I was in my early teens, I just had gotten myself a GameCube, and I needed to buy a memory card for the games. And I bought that little square, and we spent like 150 Brazilian reais, and my mother went like, I can't believe I am spending that much money in a little plastic square. Like, it's weird, but that's how things go nowadays.
That's how it was too with the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2.
Oh yeah.
And now everything is running just like a regular PC now. Everything has a hard drive, everything has a motherboard, everything has a internal fan, and a heatsink and so on and so forth, and everything runs on RAM too now. Like,
yeah,
everything's just becoming more revolutionary.
More digital.
Yep.
Like,
everything's becoming digital too.
What's becoming digital? Money. Bitcoins. Because the evolution in technology not only changes the games we play, but the business around games as well. With digital shops, if I were a retailer of games, I would be really worried about the revolutions in that area of the market. But you know what, Javier? I still prefer to buy the physical copy of games if I can find them, and if they're not way more expensive than the digital ones, I prefer to get the physicals, because I like to have them on my shelves, and I am not.
I like to be able to be proud and see on a shelf and be like, I bought that and I played it. It's awesome.
Yeah, totally. And one thing I miss a lot is that the guides that came with the games, that came with artworks and explained the controls and everything. In games you can have a tutorial in the game, but having that little booklet with the arts of the characters in it was so amusing for me. I spent countless hours.
Oh, the instruction manuals, I miss those so much.
Yeah, they were beautiful.
They don't feel like an actual game, at least have an instruction manual with it, because these days everything's all digital, including the instruction manual. They put the instruction manual built in with the game.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel complete, like I at least want the case with the instruction manual in it, like, oh cool, and then the whole little notes section in the back and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I miss that a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just two old schoolers but
Indeed.
I don't know, maybe if kids gotten to know this nowadays, I bet they would fall in love with this also. I really think.
Yeah, but most kids are into what's in the new fad these days. I mean, right now most kids are playing Minecraft, or playing Roblox, or they're playing, what's new, which is Fortnite. It's funny because they call Fortnite a battle royale game. I guess everybody versus everybody or something like that.
Okay.
And that's supposed to be revolutionary right now. Okay, that one and the Players Unknown Battleground.
All right.
The funny thing is that it's not, because that's already been done before by tribes and back then with the Quake and stuff like that. So
yeah, it may not be the first time it happens in the industry, but it's the first time their generation gets to play something like that.
Oh yeah.
So as far as they are concerned, it's the first thing they know about it. That's like that. But you know, do you think that video games are ever gonna be like Sword Art Online? Do you know what that is?
No.
You know, Sword Art Online is an anime that many people love and many people hate. But the point is that it's an anime about a digital game. The people put a device on their heads and their consciousness is transported to another world. Like they see their entire bodies and it's like they're dreaming, like really dreaming consciously there.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that gaming is going to get to that point?
It's very close. It's very close. Being right now, we have the VR headsets, and then we also got the Oculus Rift and so on and so forth. I mean, it's getting pretty close to that, but I doubt anything to that measure will actually happen.
Like in reading the brainwaves and making us play just by thinking.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's something that
would be very cool, though. That's just to see, to be honest.
Yeah, that would be very cool, but I would be scared of such technology, if you want to know, because it's dealing with my brain. It's manipulating my brain. I wouldn't like that. I don't know. I wouldn't be comfortable at all. Would you? Would you be comfortable with something like that?
I would be comfortable, but thing is, well, am I going to go to a restroom? How am I going to eat? You know, so on and so forth.
Yeah, if they shut down your body functions, how are you gonna know if you need to go to the bathroom? And sometimes you log out of the game and the damage is already done, you know? Maybe.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a pretty sight. For anybody.
You know, it's pretty funny. I was actually reading a book the other day. It's called Ready Player One.
Alright.
And it was actually pretty close to what you're talking about right now. But their thing was called the Oasis, to where basically, you know, you log into the Oasis, and everything's there for you. You know, it's nothing but video gaming, but there's also encyclopedias. There's people you can interact with. There's Sesame Street you can actually hang out with and stuff like that. It's pretty insane.
Nice.
It's actually pretty close to what you're talking about.
But something goes wrong in the book. There's a trauma, there's a plot, something happens with the technology or not. It's just everything goes right in the Oasis.
Yeah.
It's called Player One.
Ready Player One, I believe.
Ready Player One. There's a movie about this book on the cinema right now, or there is another movie called Player One.
It should be out this summer. It's gonna be hopefully a huge hit.
Oh, nice. I wanna see that. I would read it too, but I have way too many books on my list, and I'm falling behind right now. But it seems really interesting. I like this concept, like how they show how the world would be if such technology already existed and things like that.
Yeah.
But even so, I still think that classic gaming will never die. I really love pressing buttons as fast as I can to destroy as much enemies on the screen as I can. Good old.
Same here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you feel the joy and the accomplishments of what you're going through.
Right. And I am somebody who likes exercising, but even if they released a game where I move my body to cut things with a sword perfectly, better than the PlayStation Move and the Wii, if they release something that is perfect, I don't think that I would play that a lot, because leisure time, sometimes in leisure time we just want to sit back and relax, you know, but we still want to cut things somehow, so let's press buttons. That's how it goes. And I don't know if unless they they added like some really good jiggle mechanics and multi things. I'm just kidding, right?
Jiggle mechanics.
That's
you know what's really evolved a lot? Fighting games. Fighting games have evolved a lot.
Oh,
from just classic side scroll 1v1 basically to now you have what, 3 people versus 3 people. You have to choose two, 3 different people on your team and something like that. Like in Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3. That one was perfect. It was great. And then now you got Dragon Ball Fighters. It's not Fighter Z. They actually Bandai Namco actually adjusted it. It's called Fighter.
Oh, I've been saying it wrong all the time, all along.
Everybody has. But it's amazing how fighting games are these days. I mean, Mortal Kombat was one of the revolutionary ones, having real people fight, and then they went to 3D modeling, and that was still amazing.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat was one of the first successful games to use rotoscoping to photograph real actors and turn that into sprites of the fighting game.
Oh yeah.
I saw there's videos on YouTube showing the process, the actors up close talking to the camera, like dressed as the characters. It's really fun. Go out there and check. I recommend it if you're interested in such things. It's really cool.
I'll probably post it later.
Fighting games, as I see, it's like a refined art, because what makes a fighting game, you have to refine the mechanics because they are so rich. There are so many variables. What happens when your character falls down? How many frames there are of hit stun on block and out of block? What combos into what? There's a lot to fighting games, and as someone who loves the genre, I think fighting games are my favorite genre of video games. I think that there is so much to that. For someone who's looking at fighting games for the first time, they just see 2 characters beating each other in a side-scrolling plateau, but there are so many nuances to that. I think it's beautiful, guys. A connoisseur of the genre, I think it's beautiful. Old fighting games were much more clunky. There were the frames, the combos were much more rigid to execute. Nowadays, it flows much better. It flows very good, and it feels good to execute combos. It's really rewarding.
Indeed.
One other genre that has evolved a lot is shooters, because on the old times we only had side-scrolling shooters. That's all we could have with the technology, but nowadays we've got third person, first person, 11th person shooting, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most popular types of games for more than 10 years now. It's very popular, and there is no shortage of iterations of shooters of very high quality. Most AAA games for a long time have been shooters, and it's very cool.
Yes, yeah, but Call of Duty and Halo, and then now there's Overwatch, and then there's so many shooters these days. It's insane.
Yeah, shooters are one game that swinging a sword may be tiring, but pointing at the screen and pressing a button like with the Wiimote or PlayStation Move, that's not so tiring. That's something that if they changed how we play more often, the shooters, I think it would be more accepted than other kinds of games. But not that the usual controller or the mouse pad and keyboard will be replaced, but I think people would be more open to Wiimoting their way in shooters than Wiimoting their ways in other types of games. Just
what kind of shooters I like? I like the shooters like Maximum Force and Revolution X and House of the Dead and stuff like that.
Oh,
the ones, yeah. have the gun, you just point and shoot the screen.
Yeah, in arcades, right?
Yeah.
I miss playing shooters in arcades. They're very cool. There is one shooter that's... Have you ever played it? You were on a pirate boat and you have to shoot at lobsters and other freaky sea monsters that jump at you. Have you ever played that?
Yeah, I played it. I just can't think of the name. I know it was by Sega, I believe. I know Sega does a lot of that stuff now.
Yeah, I don't remember the name either, but I think that's really cool and really difficult. I couldn't progress a lot in that one. Because I suck at shooters, I must admit it. That's not my forte. If I play any first-person shooter, multiplayer, people kill me mercilessly really quickly and I give up. It's one flaw of mine, but that's the truth. I have 3D sickness playing first-person shooters, and that's why
you get motion sickness.
Motion sickness, yes. I do have that with this specific type of games for some reason. I don't know why, but it happens. So, what other genre of gaming do you think that has evolved a lot ever since its conception?
I would say probably the one I would say has probably evolved a lot was you remember Dragon's Lair and Space Ace and stuff like that. You know, like you're watching the cartoon, you gotta press a certain button with the screen flashes and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Those have evolved. Okay, those have evolved into what is now, you know, Telltale games, you know, the whole Walking Dead and the Wolf Among Us and stuff like that. It's like those stories have evolved so much. It's like now instead of point and click, it's like now you have situations. Like, well, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? I guess I should have done that. You know?
Okay, nice. I think I never played a game of that genre before. You know, but I think they're quite appealing. It's telling a story. It's the middle term of an animation and a game, right?
What was that?
Those kinds of games are the middle term between animations and video games.
Yeah.
I think that's appealing. That's one kind of experience I wish I had more. Maybe I'll have more in the future. Well, there's anything you wanna add up to the theme of the week, man?
No, that's about it, man.
All right. There's one more thing we could talk about. Crazy ways to play video game that could be invented in the future. Can you think about something?
Well, I know that pretty soon they're gonna release mouse and keyboard for the Xbox One, but of course, a lot of game companies are probably not gonna, you know, cherish that. And then the whole VR technology, you know, the PlayStation VR and stuff like that. All that seems to be evolving rapidly.
All right.
And then now you're gonna be having motion sensor? I guess like better to connect with better stuff.
Oh, you think motion sensor is coming back?
Probably.
All right.
But I think it'll probably come back in a really big way.
Yeah, if they made good use of motion sensor, it can be really cool. I think that VR is the next thing they're investing in. They're trying to bring it to our lives as much as possible in the near future. I think that's the next big thing that's gonna happen in gaming.
And then Sword Art Online will become a reality.
Maybe. Yeah. Sword Art Online is quite tragic, so maybe not exactly how the anime goes, because things go wrong there. The machines kind of trap the people inside the game, and if they try to unplug it, they die. I hope that doesn't happen exactly like that, but maybe something cooler happens. I think that they will invest in VR, and in the way in the future, far off future, maybe we have hologram technology more developed, and that is a big thing that could make gaming really cool. more cooler than it is, or maybe not. I don't know. Like holograms in the far off futures. I think it's gonna be a thing. Unless VR is so much evolved that we don't need to look elsewhere. I don't know. Just an hypothesis. And that's it. I don't think there's anything else on the subject I would like to talk about. What about you, friend?
Nah, I think that's about it, man. I mean, basically I talked about what's evolved so far.
Alright. Well, that's it, friends. See you on the next TGG podcast. I hope you liked it and keep on playing.
Happy gaming.
Happy gaming.